Alright, good evening folks, it's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to another short war video, and all I can say is holy crap, we have seen today something insane. We have seen Ukraine pull off an operation to put secret drones inside of Russia, launch them from the back of trucks, and strike a humongous portion of Russia's strategic bomber fleet, and today we are seeing mass destruction. The Russians are calling it their version of Pearl Harbor, and there's massive security meetings taking place right now in Moscow on how to deal with this situation. This is a wild event today that we're seeing, and the footage coming out is something out of like a Bond movie or something. It's really insane, and this was planned by Zelensky himself for over a year, and today was the day that it was pulled off. So insane news to cover, and we got to get jumped right into this footage right now. This is crazy to see. So let's jump into our first one here, which goes to OSINT Technical. And as we can see right here in our first post, the Ukrainian forces conducted a simultaneous strike on Russia's 4 different air bases using FPV drone swarms, and the strikes destroyed a number of high-value Russian aircraft, and the Ukrainian SBU sources say that nearly 40 were destroyed or hit, including heavy bombers that Russia had sitting around these air bases. So a level of destruction we have not seen before in the entire war. This is truly unprecedented by every means, and you see right there in the picture, there are bombers sitting right on the airstrip getting hit one by one by these FPV drones, literally like sitting ducks, because Russia was not expecting this, because they're supposed to have air defense around these air bases, but it looks like Ukraine found a way to circumvent that and actually strike it anyway. So insane to see. Like, I really can't say anything other than it's purely insane to see this. But jumping into our next post here, this one goes to Tendar. And we actually have footage of the exact moment these FPV drones struck these strategic bombers sitting right on the airbase. So let's take a look and see exactly how bad this was and how off guard the Russians were for these massive attacks. Let's take a look at the footage. And here we have it. And look at this. It is a slaughter out here. These things don't stand a chance. Like, the bombers aren't being defended whatsoever. They're in the wide open, like I said, like a sitting duck. Look at that. They're getting hit right in front of us right here on the camera, one by one, with no countermeasures whatsoever by the Russians, and they are caught off guard beyond belief. You can see some guys appear to be standing around, and they're just watching this happen. It's just going down right in front of them, and they really have no option but to simply look on and just understand this is what's happening. So insane. Just like, it really insane. You're going to hear me say that a lot today. But jumping into our next one here, this one goes to Fitux Network. And the Russian Ministry of Defense did confirm that Kyiv carried out a massive attack today using FPV drones against airfields in Murmansk, Irkutsk, Ivanovo, and Ryazan in the Amur regions, and they said it was a very large attack themselves. So for the Russian to admit this is a large attack, you know it's something undeniable. They can't even try to write this one off. This is massive, and it's a huge hit. So there is the statement from the Russian Ministry of Defense. But moving on to our next post here, this one's going to go to Insider Paper. And we also got to see a view from the road of Russia's Belaya Air Base, which was on fire, and of course we saw different hits across the entire airfield. We saw massive plumes of smoke rising from multiple locations following these massive drone attacks. So let's take a look at the road. Right here you can see a Russian appears to be filming this right from the highway, and they are clearly disturbed by what's happening here because it's unprecedented by every means. So let's take a look. So taking a look here, this is the Russian Belaya Air Base that we're looking at right here, and as you can see, there are massive plumes of smoke coming up right off the runway, and that is those strategic bombers getting hit one by one, and that is all of them up in smoke simultaneously from that FPV drone attack. So just crazy. That is wild footage, and once again, the Russians are sharing this all over social media, warning other Russians about how massive this attack was, and the Kremlin has no chance to play it down whatsoever. Just a crazy attack. But jumping into our next post here, this one goes to Tendar. So as we can see right here, 4 different Russian air bases were hit, like I mentioned earlier. It was the Olenya Air Base, the Ryazan Air Base, the Ivanovo Air Base, and the Irkutsk Air Base. And we have a couple of maps here showing the exact location of these bases. There's Ryazan, south of Moscow. There's Ivanovo, north of Moscow. And there's Olenya, up there near Finland, up near their border. And then you have the 4th one on our second map here, which is the Irkutsk Air Base, which is pretty much parallel to Ukraine, and it's over into the Russian territory more to the east. So there are the 4 different bases, and pretty much hitting an entire geography of Russia by striking these different sites today. So a very wide-scale attack. But jumping into our next post here, this one goes to Fitux Network. So in total, what was the damage? What percentage has been taken out today by this massive Pearl Harbor style attack that the Russians are calling it? And as we can see, the SBU, the Ukrainians, are saying that 34% of the strategic cruise missile carriers at the main airfields of the Russian Federation were hit and taken out of action. That is well over a quarter of their complete strike capability of cruise missile carriers to strike Ukraine that was taken out in one one day in mere hours. Once again, a monumental attack, and one that Russia will almost certainly respond to, and they are going to play this up dramatically. I can tell you that right now. It's going to be dramatic how big they play this up. So we're watching for that right now, but once again, this is being coined as the Pearl Harbor of Russia. But jumping into our next post here, this one goes to OSINT Technical. And right here in this post, we actually have more video footage showing more strikes on Russia's Belaya airbase by these FPV drones, and we can see more Russian aircraft burning even in this footage as well. So let's take a look at the second piece of footage and see what was happening. And as you can see right there, there is even more burning and destruction at the Belaya airbase, as we can see from this FPV drone that Ukraine was flying around. So more proof of it, and another angle showing you the perspective of the different strikes. And also a pretty cool interface on that FPV drone that Ukraine has, I must admit. But anyways, moving on from that and moving on to our next post here, this one goes to Null Reports. And before I get into this post right here, just for a little context, these drones were actually driven into Russia by the Ukrainians secretly. They were smuggled into Russia. They were launched from the back of semi-truck trailers, and of course that's a little confusing right now until you see it in action, but they literally launched them from the top of semi-truck trailers that they were hidden in. They took off and they went and struck these different air bases in their respective locations. So that is what happened, but we saw that the Russian civilians saw that happening, and they reportedly climbed on top of one of the semi-trucks used to launch drones at the Russian air bases, and these citizens, the Russian citizens, attempted with their bare hands, the stones and sticks, to prevent the drones from taking off from the backs of these trucks. They were climbing on top of the Ukrainian trucks and trying to stop these drones from taking off, which was insane. So let's take a look at this and see the chaos unfolding right in the streets of Russia. And look at that, there he is. There's Russians standing right on top of the Ukrainian truck launching FPV drones, and they're trying to smack them down with their bare hands. And of course, they're loaded with explosives, by the way, so now you're smacking down live bombs, essentially, off the top of this truck. So they're trying to stop them. It's unclear if they really have stopped any of them, but they're on top of the truck trying to swat them down with their hands. And also, there appear to be some police maybe off in the distance blocking the roadway and letting Ivan over here try to take down the drones with his hands. So there's some people throwing up stones or something to the top of the truck. They're trying to get them up there, some projectiles to throw at the drones, and they're trying to break into the trailer, it looks like, to actually get to these drones that were supposed to be taking off. So like I said, I don't know if they actually got the drones or not. I doubt they did. I think they actually ended up taking off beyond Ivan's best efforts here, but that was what they were trying to do. They were trying to stop it straight out the tops of the truck. So with that, we're now moving on to our next article here, which goes to 5 News. And this is more footage right here of the drone trucks launching the drones straight from the back of the semi-truck trailers. We actually have a video here showing the drones leaving this truck, this one truck near one of the air bases. So it gives you an idea of exactly how the system functioned that Ukraine came up with to smuggle the drones in, and more context as to how the attack was carried out. So let's take a look at this video as well. And would you look at that? There's the semi-truck and there's the drone coming straight out of the top of it. A pretty hefty looking FPV drone, if I do say. And there it is heading right out toward the airbase, which is literally right over there. They parked this truck right next to the airbase that was full of Ukrainian FPV attack drones. And this truck right here has opened the roof somehow, retracted it or something. And these drones just started taking off out of the top of this container sitting on the back of the semi-truck. So it's like literally like a James Bond style plot here. This is insane. And also Zelensky personally planned this himself. So he set this up for over a year and then put this into motion today. So just wild. Like honestly, I'm at a loss for words on this one. This is something here that I was not expecting to see today, and this has certainly caught a lot of people off guard, including the Russians. So really wild. There's another one taking off from the back as well. So that gives you some more context as to how it worked. But jumping into our next post here, this one goes to Max 25. And wait, it gets even better with the drone trucks. To add to the James Bond style plot they had going here, near one of the airfields where this semi-truck was sitting that was launching the Ukrainian drones, the truck exploded after launching all the drones from the back, like literally self-destructed on the side of the road, so that way the Russians couldn't get inside and figure out how it operated or how they did it. They literally had a self-destruct mechanism built into the truck, which is literally out of a spy thriller. So let's take a look at our footage here and see it exploding. So right here you can actually see there is the truck literally after it exploded, after it self-detonated, burning on the side of the road. And down here you can see yet even another fire, and I guess more pieces of debris from the other truck down the road that you saw right there. So it literally just self-destructed after it was finished, and there was more footage showing that right there. So wild to see. I guess the Ukrainians remote detonated it as they were controlling these FPV drones. But moving on to our next post here, this one is going to go to Insider Paper. And we've also gotten another angle here showing the semi-truck going up in flames after they launched all the drones. So let's take a look at this one as well. And right there you can see there is the truck husk burning, and there's a actual Russian truck that's actually legitimate right next to it on the left right here, and there's the other one burning. Then you see right there the door to the back of the drone container, and also the top wide open where they literally rolled the roof back to launch the drone. So wild to see. And also this guy's totally unfazed by that massive explosion happening right next to him. I guess the Russians are kind of in a state of defeat because they really didn't respond very well to this whole thing. But that is the footage. And moving on to our next post here, we have yet even more news, this time from inside geopolitics. And like I said earlier, the Russian response to this entire event is about to be probably very large, because this was a very dramatic event that's going to catch the headlines of pretty much everywhere around the world. And Russia is set to hold an emergency meeting right now via Rosmi, and Russian bloggers are now coining this attack the Russian version of Pearl Harbor, once again invoking the sense of going to full-scale war or escalating things dramatically. So that is the current sit rep with the Russian government, and it sounds like they're setting up a pretty big event here to actually escalate this thing dramatically in whatever way they possibly can. So I have a feeling this is going to put a permanent end to the peace talks. If it doesn't, I will be surprised. But I have a feeling that Russia is not going to participate from this point forward, because this right here changes the entire game completely, what went down today, because this is a huge embarrassment for the Russians and a massive security failure by the FSB inside of Russia as well. So that's what we're currently hearing out of Moscow. But jumping into our next post here, this one goes to Visegrad 24. So in this post right here, we can see that Ukraine released pictures showing how they smuggled all the drones into Russia, and they hid the drones in wooden compartments in the modified cargo trucks. They hired unknowing Russian drivers to drive them past the Russian air bases. The roofs of the cargo trucks opened, and the drones took off to strike the long-range bombers, and all of the Ukrainians involved in the operation returned to Ukraine before the attack, and then the attack was executed remotely, putting no Ukrainians at risk whatsoever of this entire operation. So taking a look here at the photos, you can see there is the wooden crates right here that they were building, showing these secretive drones hiding underneath the compartments of the very top of that storage container. And once again, it was not the entire storage container that contained all the drones. It was just a thin layer at the top near the roof that retracted where these drones took off from, as you can see right here in this photo. Also taking a look at our second photo here, there's an earlier stage of development. It's pretty actually crude actually. It's just pretty much plywood and 2x4s that they used to set a false compartment in the top of these shipping containers and then roll the roof back to let them actually fly away. So not that super impressive when it comes from a technological standpoint, but there you can see there are these boxes that were being done right here. They were being built inside of a secretive warehouse inside of Ukraine and then sent on the back of Russian trucks right into Russia to park right next to the air bases and take off and strike them. So honestly, a brilliant planning by the Ukrainians, and it's really honestly almost like Israeli levels of planning when it comes to the beeper operation inside of that area as well. So wild to see. But with that, we're now moving on to our next article here, and this one goes to OSINT Technical once again, and we've also heard that in addition to that massive FPV attack by the Ukrainians that was conducted secretly, we've also heard that the third major incident on a Russian rail network has occurred in less than 36 hours. This is a major wreck that we're seeing right now of the Russian train system. A Russian cargo train suffered a major derailment this morning after another bridge collapsed in the Kursk Oblast of Russia. So we've been seeing bridges collapse left and right inside of Russia. They appear to be exploding or being detonated or something, but there is this train that derailed because of the bridge collapsing or being detonated. So there you can see that right there. It's obviously a pretty bad wreck right here. This front of the train appears to be pretty jacked up, and over here you can actually see the location of it. There it is right here in the Kursk region. It's more toward the top end of Kursk that it exploded right there, and here's some more up close photos of the train right there on the tracks after it literally came loose of the wheel set right there, and it disconnected from pretty much everything and destroyed the entire box of the train. So wild to see once again, and another major incident happening across Russia, this time involving trains the exact same time the attack was happening earlier this morning. So moving into our next post here, this one goes to Inside Geopolitics. And we are not done yet. That is not all that happened in Russia today. The train system getting wrecked, the air bases getting wrecked. We're also hearing explosions being reported in Severomorsk, Russia, and this is where the nuclear-armed submarines are based, and its main base for the Russian Northern Fleet. Right now, we are getting early reports that there are major explosions at the nuclear-armed submarine base in the Russian Northern Fleet area, which is, of course, massive news as well, and happening at the exact same time as everything else. So this could be a coordinated blitz across multiple different fronts by Ukraine to attack Russia internally from within, and this could be all one major attack that we're seeing, but right now it's too early to say that, but clearly we're hearing explosions in Severomorsk near this nuclear-armed base. So moving into our last post of the day, this one goes to Visegrad 24, and we actually have footage showing the massive fire and explosions on the submarine base in Severomorsk near Murmansk, and so let's take a look at this footage as well and show you what the damage is looking like at this base. And there you have it, a massive plume of smoke coming up from this Russian nuclear submarine base, and it appears to be over there maybe toward the actual building side. I can't tell if that's the buildings or if that's the actual dock itself. It's hard to tell, but obviously a humongous smoke coming from it, and I doubt that is a spontaneous fire. I think that is probably a targeted attack, and it's either something that was sent in to attack the base or it was exploded from the ground, one or the other, but we simply don't know right now. This is very early on this report right here. So once again, another massive attack inside of Russia. But with that, folks, that is actually our last piece of news for the video, and we are going to have an absolute ton of news to cover tonight on the stream at 10 p.m. Eastern, so be sure to join us for that to see all the rest of the footage and all the rest of the attacks happening throughout the day. And also, if you watched the video to this point, go down to the comments and put LSA down there and let us know you watched it, and also remember to smack the like button and subscribe to the channel as well if you already haven't for more daily war updates just like this one, where we'll keep you up to date about everything happening, including on historic days just like this one, where Ukraine did something that was unprecedented like we've never seen before, which is just, like I've said 1,000 times at this point, wild footage. But anyways, thank you all for watching, and remember, if you want to support the channel financially, you can do so on our Patreon page, and it's down in the description below, the link for it for Patreon, if you want to sign up for that. And we do appreciate that very much, and we'll see you all tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern, and thank you for watching, and bye-bye for now.